At the end, resilience is everything. And if you're believing in what you're doing and you're surrounding yourself with the right people, we'll nail it.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders and meet Guy Sade, co-founder and CEO of Simpool.io. Guy is passionate about data and the hidden gold inside of it. He is dealing with data for the past 18 years, business intelligence, analytics, and data science, and in the gaming space since 2010. Before founding Simpool, Guy led Playatika's data unit on its data revolution time. Guy has a Bachelor of Science in Engineering of Industrial Management. Guy Sade, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
Thank you very, very much for being here. You know, I love understanding how people evolve throughout their career, gain insights into their different domains, verticals, occupations, and then go and start a company based on those understandings. You have a really, really interesting journey from being from Shankar to being a business analyst to being a BI analyst, director of business intelligence with Plyatika, VP mobile data at Music Lab, and now a co-founder and CEO at Simpool, with a bunch of other things in between that I skipped around. But it looks like a really interesting journey from the perspective of just gathering all these crazy experiences that lead you to some interesting convictions in the world of decision making. And now you're bringing that into Simpool. So, Guy, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you perceive your career trajectory, and then we'll dive into what Simpool does and how it's solving a greater issue.
Cool. So, I'm dealing with data somewhere since 2003, and I started my journey as a business analyst for a company called Incredible. And back then, when I need to send a management report, a daily report, you went to your some kind of your database and you copy paste some values into Excel sheet, and then you run all kind of Excel, and then copy the information from the Excel to an email, like a very long process. And I found that I really love the data world, but I don't understand how it works. So a few months later, I joined a company who dealt only with building infrastructure for business intelligence. Mm-hmm. And following the years, I worked with several companies in several industries. And since I learned how to build the entire process from ground to the top, it became more and more interesting. And I found myself that there are very similarity between what companies are facing in all the perspective related to data. And this is what serves me today. I'm always trying to figure what is the most efficient way to work with data, because data is a gold mine. And if you know how to work with it properly, it's a really important factor in your ability to drive your company to a better place and to be more successful.
What did you learn about handling data as you were working as both a business analyst, but then a business intelligence manager across a variety of companies? What did you really learn about the perhaps right and wrong uses of analyzing data?
It's a very good question. I think one of the biggest thing that I found is big data. Beside the fact type kind of a sexy term, mm-hmm. It holds a lot of challenges and sometimes leads companies to store massive amount of data, but at the end, when they need to take decision based on this data, that's where the challenge, because right. Big data requires, the proper infrastructure, and it requires the proper analyst that knows how to dig the important KPIs out of it. And I think that what is more appealing for most companies is working with the right data, not necessarily the big data. In today's world, it's very easy to create a very small application that generates huge amount of data, but the smart thing is how to decide what is important at the beginning of the journey And then at the end, you can really work with a very concrete KPIs that help you make a better decision on a daily basis.
Right. Okay. So tell me a little bit about.
For me, that's the big.
What did you say?
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. That's I think that's my biggest takeout from the data world at this point. Before we started Simpool, then later on the journey, I found that answering the what if and what could be if we've just changed that a simple factor 3 months ago we could do better. That's something that came later for me at the process and at my career.
So take me a little bit later on then to this idea of guesstimating and running simulations and being able to make decisions in advance for a possible outcome that will come later on. And today you're with Simpool, and you're helping people make these decisions and run these simulations, especially for game developers, that otherwise it's very hard for them to do. What is sort of the big pain point that you're tackling here that you've been inspired for Simpool?
So the idea for Simpool was born into the gaming space, though we do not consider ourselves as a gaming company, because at the end, the challenges that we're facing today, I think, can be found in almost every company, every digital business. You always seek for optimization on a very, very simple formulation. When you're acquiring users for a specific amount of money, you need to generate a positive return on investment. Right. And the big challenge is how you get to this point. In the gaming space, when you're talking about millions of users that can be divided to tens of cohorts and different classifications and clusters and different profiles of users, each one of them is seeking for a different experience. And the thing is that, when companies are trying to find this point, the classic approach is, it's running the old concept of A/B testing, which used to be great, and it still can be great, but it's expensive.
Right.
You must have these capabilities in your application to run a valid A/B test, which do not expose users to more than one variant. And at the end, when you're looking to analyze an A/B test results, what's interesting is not what happened after a day or a week. You want to see the long run. You want to see that the user that was exposed to the successful variant actually retained and came back and continue paying. And this time costs a lot of money and drive you as a company to spend a lot of inefficient media. Right. And at that point, I thought to myself, if I could only build a small thing that will help me to understand faster and just to give a general perspective, what it could be if we just change this parameter and then the other parameter, and what happened if we want to change two. This is how this idea was born. And I think that when it's running, it's fascinating. It's a groundbreaking strategy to the way you're making your decision, and this is what is fascinating me for the past years when we start running Simpool.
So what I'm understanding from you is, while we've been able to do traditional business intelligence, especially if we're looking at the context of gaming, the ability to actually use some algorithms to identify the game patterns and to then, through those patterns, predict what is going to be the customer experience and then simulate on the different changes, that's really the aha moment that you're bringing with you to Simpool.
Yeah, because the thing, it's just give you the general understanding what happens behind the corner if you just could have a general understanding. And yes, it relies on a very efficient classification of users' profile and identifying what is the root and what is the cause and what is the effect. And once you're having this basic understanding, what basically we're trying to do is just facing these users' profiles with different environment, different reality. And the power of a simulation as a service platform is that you're not limited to one linear A/B testing or two linear A/B testing that one after another with a 2 weeks iteration. We're running dozens or hundreds of different what-if scenarios in terms of minutes or hours. And for us, that's the big promise of what we're bringing to the world. And I think it's not about simple. It's in a way you drive your product team and your monetization team to always seek for a better performance. Not afraid to break anything, which is a very big concern in a live and running game. You sometimes you don't want to change anything, even though you want to improve, because you're afraid to break something. And we want to break this friction, give you this endless sandbox to play as you want, get a general understanding of what's going to be, and move forward.
That makes
Innovate,
a lot of sense.
Smarter. Yeah.
So, from the analytics perspective, what have you learned with Simpool about games in general? If you're looking, for example, at the gaming market and the way games are built and the strategic thinking around games, what are some non-trivial things that you've observed in the gaming world that perhaps a young new game developer may not even be aware of, or may not even know to ask those questions as they're strategically thinking through their game?
Okay, it's a very interesting insight. At the end, the games do not work it's not a one size fits all. It's not like if you'll take some mechanics from one game, applying it to a different skin, and by magic it will work. Every game has its own soul. This soul is generated from the and from the deepest core game loop, and the way that the interface surrounding it, and then the way that the player experiences the sound, it's all part of the same party. And I think one of the biggest takeout that I have so far in this current journey of my life and my career is, first, you always try to innovate. It's not like you can do just another slot game or just another coin master. It doesn't work like that. The users are too smart. The millennials and the teenagers taking such a strong cluster and portion of the active users, and they need innovation. So you always should look for what's new, how you can tweak something, and then build the entire journey and experience around it. That's for me the biggest tip that I can provide for new game developers, or for someone who wants to step into this journey. Beside the fact that you have to work with data, don't work with hunches.
Right. Now, this idea of working with data, is this a solved problem in terms of, the acquiring the data, knowing to take it from the customer actions and the different experiences? So in other words, are we at a point now where the layer of data observability and data collection has sort of been solved, and now we're transitioning to being able to just use the most effective tools to analyze it? Or are there still gaps in the world of just collecting the data and knowing which data to actually collect?
No, I think it's not a solved problem. I think, and I see it almost with every company that we're working with, it's the reliability of the data and the definition of what is really important and how the data pipeline looks like. For me, it's something that hasn't been solved from the customer side. We can always see cases when the data is not always accurate. Sometimes it's missing. Sometimes you have to create all kind of workaround just to give the basic business picture to your customers. And I think it's better to have less data, but a reliable one, something that you can take a decision with confident enough that what you're seeing is actually what happened in the market and in the battlefield of your users, and then you can take decisions. And what I can suggest for everyone, for every digital business, is don't underestimate in the power of data. It's better to have the right data rather than the big data. Right. And I think that once you have a solid layer of the basic foundation of your data infrastructure, move to the next one. Make it step by step. It's an endless journey of what you can seek to find from your data. Sometimes, by the way, important data pieces can be found outside of your internal data pipeline and like environmental ones. But probably this is for a later stage in a game development journey.
Now, if we're looking at a company, whether it's big or small, one of the things that I see from your experience that you've had such a wealth of experiences, working in BI teams across so many different companies and organizations, and seeing BI processes handled both, I guess, well and I'm sure not so well. If I were to now come into a company and start a BI initiative or create a new startup and think through BI from the get-go, what, obviously, there's the common tools to use and there's the best practices, but from somebody who's gone through, not just creating the BI, but actually coming up with the insights from it, which is what you actually want in the end, what is perhaps the most important thing to keep in mind as I'm building my BI infrastructure in my company?
That the BI team should serve the business and not vice versa. It's a mistake that I made somewhere in the beginning of my journey. I was very ambitious to build something. I joined a startup and we tried to build something, and we could have worked on a very simple, standard way, and making sure that the data unit supporting the business. And very early in the process, we decided to build a rocket ship, and I think it was wrong. I think when you're starting a business intelligence initiative, something on top of your business intelligence layer, there is the business analyst team. And I think that the biggest thing you should consider when you're starting is asking the business holders what is important for them. What do they need? When do they need it? What is the granulation of the data that will help them to take better decisions? And from this point, start structuring your data layer and your data infrastructure. Otherwise, it's just an end and loop. With sometimes you can find very ambitious data people, but they're not focusing on what's making the money for the company at the end. And this is the biggest thing for the company. You need to grow your customer base. You need to make more revenues. That's the growth drivers. And the data team should support this. And once you're understanding this, you are very focusing on your decision. Which technology you should use. What's the size of the data? Which are which data engineers or business analysts you need to recruit? Everything is coming from this route.
I love it. Were you always so fascinated about data also before your military service as a kid? Is an analysis and analyzing data, is this always where your passion lied?
No, actually, no. I think that as a teenager, everything related to mathematics and studying was way off my horizon. Even in my military service, it was not focusing on computers. I was more focusing on walking somewhere. But it came to me later in the journey. Somewhere I'm writing like the fourth year and as a student, starting working in Incredible. I found that there is a lot of information that you can find, a lot of insight. You can actually help the business, and then it catch me. And from this point, the rest is history.
I love it. And if you look today at really the core of your inspiration, you wake up, you're running Simpool, you've been in the BI space for a long time. Where do you gather your inspiration to continue the way that you're continuing?
I just have to win it. It's something that I can't explain. I don't know. There's something like I said. It's not like I'm looking on someone and like Steve Jobs or. No, it's not from there. There is something inside of me, that I'm coming in the morning and say, no, I haven't solved that yet. It has to be solved. I have a goal. I have a mission currently in my life, and I need to nail that. And it's something that probably every entrepreneur is facing this feeling, and it's something that you cannot explain. But once you're feeling this, you say, yeah, it's this one. I have to win it, and nothing will stop me to this point. And that's what's driving me. This journey is so volatile, but at the end, moonshot. That's our goal.
What are a few words that you would use to describe yourself?
I'm very stubborn. sometimes maybe too much. But I'm very passionate for what I'm doing. And I think it's a key for holding this, being an entrepreneur and a family man and living this, especially during the past 18 months with COVID, which is facing us with all kind of challenges. At the end, resilience is everything. And if you're believing in what you're doing and you're surrounding yourself with the right people, we'll nail it.
I love
and
it.
We'll make it.
Yeah. Toda raba raba. Thank you very, very much for the time and for the insights. I loved it. And I wish you best of luck with Simpool. And thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Stay safe and stay healthy.